Good afternoon and welcome back to our news bulletin, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Saria Strzemska. And we begin with renewed tensions between Budapest and the European Union. Next month, European ministers will meet in Brussels to discuss activating a clause in the EU treaty against Hungary. This clause deals with serious or ongoing violations of the EU's core values. The discussion is prompted after Budapest's recent ban on LGBTQ plus events and its continued blocking of military support for Ukraine. Our EU correspondent Angela Skujins has more.
The EU Justice Chief, Michael McGrath, told TVP World at a press conference in Brussels that various European affairs ministers will meet in the Belgian capital next month to discuss further whether they should invoke Article 7 of the EU treaty against Hungary for various rule of law violations. It comes off the back of Budapest Parliament recently passing a law that would ban LGBTIQ plus events from taking place in that country. This has sparked fierce protests as well as criticisms, with some describing the leadership style of Prime Minister Viktor Orban as sliding into authoritarianism. Let's take a listen to what that EU Justice Commissioner had to say.
The fundamental point is that respect for rule of law and respect for EU values as set out in Article 2 of the treaty is not discretionary. It is a core obligation of EU membership.
If Article 7 is invoked, it would strip a member state of certain benefits, in particular voting rights in the European Council. This would be particularly pronounced as Hungary has repeatedly torpedoed any concrete support for Ukraine as that country weathers another year of Russian invasion. We also know that the Prime Minister Viktor Orban has told his emissaries to block or threaten to block the rollover of EU sanctions against Russia and Belarusian individuals. So all eyes will be on this General Affairs Council meeting scheduled for the 27th of May. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
The Latvian parliament has approved the country's withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention, effectively lifting the country's ban on the use of anti-personnel mines. In a Wednesday vote, a crushing majority of lawmakers supported the decision, citing the need to strengthen the country's deterrence capabilities. The decision to leave the convention is in line with the Baltic states' joint statement issued in early March, recommending withdrawal from the treaty amid the war in Ukraine. Poland and Finland have also expressed their willingness to pull out of the landmine convention. The intention of the countries to quit the treaty attracted all-round criticism from human rights organizations. The Ottawa Convention, which is widely regarded as having contributed to international peace and security, is now ratified by 163 nations, excluding Russia, China and the US. Another devastating Russian missile attack has hit the Ukrainian frontline city of Kherson, according to reports from local military administration on Wednesday. One person was killed and 6 others were wounded. The Kherson Regional Military Administration released a video showing damage to a supermarket, residential buildings and cars following the strike. The attack occurred in the morning during rush hour. Ukraine's foreign ministry called the strikes barbaric and said a guided aerial bomb was used to inflict the greatest harm on civilians. In another Russian strike, 3 people were wounded and fires erupted in residential buildings in Odessa. It is yet another assault on a city vital to Ukraine's grain exports.
Just before 1 a.m. local time, the Ukrainian Air Force reported groups of Shahed drones approaching Odessa from the Black Sea. Later in the night, the city's mayor called on residents of Odessa's 2 districts to find shelter. As stated by the city official, rescuers, psychologists, and police are still on the scene clearing the rubble and supporting the wounded both physically and mentally.
Ukraine has accused Russian forces of breaching the US-brokered ceasefire agreement more than 30 times in March alone. Here's what the spokesperson of the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry had to say about the attacks.
Not even 1 month has passed since the agreement was made, but Russia has already violated this agreement over 30 times, meaning more than once a day, probably, if you take it on average, with damaging our critical energy grid, our critical energy objects. So unfortunately, we can see these Russian violations, and we're sharing them with the United States and with other partners and with all relevant international organizations and institutions. We still abide as the Ukrainian state by this agreement with the United States.
Just ahead of Easter, President Andrzej Duda visited Polish troops stationed at the European Corps headquarters in Strasbourg to present the soldiers with military decorations. The president is accompanied by his wife, Agata Kornhauser-Duda. Following the official ceremony, the first couple joined the soldiers for an Easter gathering. Eurocorps is a multinational military framework launched by Germany and France in 1992. It now includes 6 member states within both NATO and the EU. Poland has been an Eurocorps member since 2022. President Duda praised the growing synergy between the EU and NATO in the field of defense.
You know how many discussions there have been whether we should form European military structures. We talked about not creating an alternative to the North Atlantic Alliance, not creating a defense competition between NATO and the European Union, but creating a synergy to make us more powerful. This is happening thanks to your service in Eurocorps. And the role of Eurocorps could grow, as the United States are demanding more activity from Europe in regard to its security. Today, the biggest threat for Europe is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. All of us within NATO and European Union have supported Ukraine fighting the Russian aggression from the very beginning. We show support by sending military equipment and humanitarian aid, as well as helping war refugees in our countries.
In 2024, Poland experienced more than 110,000 cyber attacks aimed at public institutions, marking a 23% rise from the previous year. The Polish Minister of Digital Affairs stated that all these incidents are linked to Russia and Belarus. He also shared the steps the government in Warsaw is taking to protect the upcoming presidential elections in the country.
We launched a broad set of actions. The Internal Security Agency conducted a multi-segment security test at the National Electoral Commission. Audits were carried out, recommendations were issued, and concrete steps have been taken to secure our systems. These efforts also include training provided to National Electoral Commission staff. For this election, we've gone even further, down to the level of regional electoral commissions, to ensure that this knowledge reaches those responsible for the process at every level. In addition, we're working with the country's largest service providers and digital platforms to counter disinformation. We've strengthened and launched a new program run by the NASK Research and Academic Computer Network, focused specifically on detecting and responding to disinformation campaigns. We've also begun informing all electoral committees about the types of incidents that can be expected, including assessments of their potential impact on the campaign. This process is already underway. Committees are receiving regular updates, and candidates have also been provided with information.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk met with outgoing German Chancellor Olaf Scholz for talks centered on bilateral relations and pressing global issues. The visit comes just 2 weeks before Scholz is due to leave office. Despite the approaching departure, Scholz remains active in his duties, including attending European Union summits. His visit to Poland was kept low-key, without any scheduled public addresses or media engagements. In Berlin, his Social Democratic Party recently finalized a coalition agreement with the Christian Democrats, paving the way for Friedrich Merz to take over as Chancellor in early May. Poland's police have detained 18 people believed to be involved in a sex trafficking operation that raked in hundreds of thousands of euros. Officials say the group had been operating in several major Polish cities. 15 of the detainees are Ukrainian citizens. The trafficking ring preyed mainly on women from the war-torn country, exploiting their difficult living circumstances to recruit them into prostitution. Officials say the suspects earned nearly 30,000 euros from trafficking a woman who had been tricked into paying an intermediary 11,000 euros. The group is believed to have been operating in Kraków, Warsaw, Wrocław and Poznań. Investigators found that the gang is likely to have earned more than 200,000 euros from its criminal activities, and say that up to several dozen women could have been involved in procuring the victims. And with this, we conclude our news update. Thank you for watching. The bottom line is coming up next.